You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, my name is Philip Eitzen, and today is Friday, April 26th, 2024.
6.
This week's tip of the week is an oldie, but it's a goodie. It's something I've been reminded of a number of times in the conversations and podcasts that I've recorded recently. It's interesting that it's really coming to the fore again. And the tip is, to really make yourself relevant to your stakeholder, you have to talk in their language. This can have many facets, but specifically using business speak rather than procurement jargon, and showing up to understand and then connect what you do with the things that are important to your stakeholder, not the things that are important to you.
5.
When we talk about AI, there are some common questions that usually come up. Will AI take my job? Will AI take over the world? But what about the questions that we're not asking? Now, I welcome Darshan Deshmukh, the president at Procurability, to the AOP podcast this week, and we chatted about how AI is impacting procurement, and in particular, the kinds of questions that procurement leaders should be asking themselves about how they're going to use it to provide more value to the business. Let's listen to this short clip of Darshan explaining the questions you should be asking about AI today.
Our approach to AI, it's an org design approach. Mm-hmm. So we call it basically, there are 4 things that you need to think about. What is the work that you're trying to accomplish? What's the outcome?
Yeah.
What are the jobs that need to get done to accomplish that work? What are the tasks underneath that, and what are the skills that are needed to do that, right? Not a lot of organizations ask those questions. Mm-hmm. So I think taking that intentional org design, it's a system dynamic problem, right? So how do you solve that organizational design problem? Not a lot of organizations ask that question. Not a lot of leaders or orgs ask about, what do I need to do from a skills perspective for future?
Yeah.
I think that should be one of the big questions that need to be asked and answered as you as you start investing in it. And I think the third thing is, what should be my short-term, long-term plans for this? I think that's another. So rather than being scared about it, I think how do I get myself ready for it? Right.
Change can sometimes be scary, and there's no question we're operating a time of great digital and technological change. When we start to understand that the value of AI cannot be fully realized unless there is a human operator there to make sense of it all, procurement can feel a lot more secure and empowered to leverage AI to bring greater value to the business.
4.
In this week's episode of Art of Supply, Kelly Barner considers the practical realities of the new federal rule requiring that heavy-duty truck manufacturers reduce their emissions by fixed percentages starting with the 2028 model year. Now, one of the challenges these manufacturers will face is lead times. Just like passenger cars, heavy-duty truck model years usually come out in the previous calendar year. This means a truck built in April of 2022 is typically a 2023 model year. According to the new rule, day cabs, which are driven shorter distances, must have 8% less emissions by model year 2028. But that model year will be sold in 2027, and it takes time to engineer, source, and manufacture. Now, manufacturers of these trucks are officially on a 3-year countdown to that part of the rule taking effect. As John Mize, a spokesman for Volvo Group North America, told the New York Times, the final regulation was more realistic than what was originally proposed. So, not good, not bad, just better. Hopefully cooler heads will prevail and the rule will do the same, deliver improved emissions on a timeline that allows manufacturers to actually make lasting change in a financially responsible way. Listen to this week's Art of Supply to hear more about the new rule and how it aims to reduce supply chain emissions.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
I created a Snap 24-hour poll on LinkedIn earlier this week to ask a question about what kind of feedback we typically give to RFP respondents who are not successful in winning the business. Now, we had exactly 100 votes responding to this LinkedIn poll. The answers were 13% said, I don't usually give feedback. 57% said, I provide high-level insights. 10% said, I provide a detailed summary. And 20% said, I facilitate a Q&A call. Now, in the comments, multiple-time CPO and an advisor to Art of Procurement, Jack Miles, stated that providing feedback is important and actually not doing so is irresponsible, that companies put so much time and effort into proposing. Now, I'm just finished writing a solo episode to publish in the next few weeks in the AOP feed that discusses this issue in more details, along with some thoughts on what we can do about it and why.
2.
In this week's episode of the Love Procurement podcast, a joint production by Art of Procurement and iValua, I spoke with Andrew Bartolini, the founder and chief research officer at Ardent Partners, and Vishal Patel, the vice president of product marketing at iValua. And they shared their perspectives on the big trends and a few predictions for procurement here in 2024. These include the need to separate the practical applications of generative AI from the hype, why cost savings are back as a top area of focus for CPOs, and the complexity caused by intertwined global trade, deglobalization, and geopolitical tensions. To listen to this full conversation, click the link in today's show notes or search for the Love Procurement podcast in your favorite podcast app.
1.
Speaking of key trends, next week we'll be hosting an AOP live session with a team at Zip, unleashing the power of generative AI in procurement. That's going to be on April the 30th. Lance Younger, CEO of ProcureTech, and Nick Heinsman, the head of research at Zip, will discuss the transformative role of generative AI across the procurement technology landscape. You can register by going to artofprocurement.com/calendar, where you'll see a list of all of our webinars that we currently have scheduled.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.